Can you guys hear me fine? Yes? Awesome. So gives me a lot of pleasure here to interview Deepa Chaddha, who's the head of HR at Vistara Tata SI Airlines, one of the youngest and fastest growing airlines in India. Deepa, welcome to the unconference area.
Thank you.
Just quick check, is Deepa's mic working?
Can you hear me at the back? Perfect.
Awesome,
Thank
I
you.
think. So, Deepa, curious, you've worked for many interesting organizations, Airtel, Jabong, and now Vistara. What made you shift industries and jump into airlines?
Okay, that's a typical interview type question. Yeah, I think different drivers at different points in time, but the richness of experience which each industry provides you at different points in time. So I think that's the biggest driver. And aviation is the first time that I'm trying as an industry, and so a lot of unique, rich experiences which each industry brings with itself. And here I am with Vistara Aviation, and really enjoying. But typically, what I find in aviation, people are born and brought up in aviation. So those who have spent 3 decades and all their entire, aviation career, moving from one airline to the other. And so I sometimes feel like a fish out of water, sometimes feel like a novice. But so far, so good, really enjoying my journey.
And so it's a new airline. When you shared with me the demographics of the employees seem very, very interesting. Very young, very high on diversity. Take us a little bit through that.
So talking a little bit more about Vistara, and as we all know that it's born out of alliance of two illustrious organizations, Tata and Singapore Airlines. Tata, which stands for trust, and Singapore Airlines, which stands for service first. So I think our genes could not get better, get better than that. So really feel blessed to have inherited, the illustrious parentage. Talking about Vistara, the person today, as you just mentioned, that we are one of the youngest airlines in India, a little over 3 years old, and inching towards 4% market share. 22 stations today, 2,200 staff with 100 plus flights a day. Carrying 150,000 passengers on a day-to-day, So it's been a measured journey. I don't think we have, we have grown very fast, but very consciously, it's been a measured journey and has been part of our plan, which we want to do, bit by bit. But in this short span, I think there are many firsts and many onlys which are associated with our brand. So introducing Vistara, perhaps the only airline which provides 3-class product. We are the only airline in India which has economy, premium economy, and business class available to us. We are the only airline which has a lounge at T3, which is very envious and a very classy proposition there. We are the only airline which provides Starbucks at 30,000 feet. And the list goes on and on. I think we are enviously, appreciated by our competitors as well as by journalists and also our passengers for our very well curated meals. The women, I can see a lot of women here. So Vistara Women Fly program is the first of its kind. So a long list of firsts and onlys, as I just mentioned. But most of all, it's also the feedback which we are getting from our customers. So Economic Times recently, rated us the highest as far as the NPS is concerned. There is overwhelming feedback from customers. There is a lot of positive buzz on social media. And of course, the list goes on. And of course, there are whole hosts of awards which corroborate the journey and the efforts of our founder members, of our founder employees, who have who have sweat and put the burnt the midnight oil to get us to where we are. So I think that's perhaps the short introduction to your question, Ramesh.
That's amazing. Tell me, what are some of the challenges you faced building a young startup? In a sense, it's a young startup. The average age is less than 35 years. take us through some of the challenges. And again, most of your people are not even in remote locations on the ground. They're in remote locations in the air. So take us a little bit through that.
So unlike many other companies, and I always share that I work for 5 different organizations in 5 different industries, starting from pharma, e-commerce, BPO, telecom, software and so on. And, when I look at the talent spread of aviation and specifically unique to our industry and organization, so you have 50% of flying staff, which is your cabin crew and your pilots. You have 85% of your, remote staff, which is all the staff across 22 locations spread out in a very unsupervised, or young supervisory kind of an environment across 22 states from Leh to Kochi to Bagdogra to Goa. So it's a very diversified national spread there in terms of different cultures. Then, in terms of millennials, yes, 80% are millennials, so it's a very young workforce, young girls, cabin crew, and now, of course, the male crew has joined them recently. So, from managing talent and that diversity of talent, I don't think the complexity and the diversity could have been more than, what you have as far as our industry and organization is concerned. So, of course, the challenges are there. Challenges are how do you engage with them? How do you enable learning for them? How do you solve problems for them? How do you listen to them? How do you, interact with them? How do you communicate with them? So those are definitely, but I think apart from these, solving transactions and hygiene and putting processes and policies, there is a bigger why of how do you connect the whole organization to have them walk along in terms of the culture that you want to build in the organization. So, if today we are known for the most passenger-friendly airline, if we are getting reigning awards for, the best airline in India from the likes of TripAdvisor and Skytrax, and, so the list goes on again as far as 2018 has been concerned for us. But how do you make all that come to life? Is complex and yet simple. So that's where I think the biggest challenge of what we want to achieve, how do we want to go about it, and how do you make that come to life for every employee in the organization. So I don't know if I've answered your question.
Yeah, so you've been using Workplace by Facebook now to connect and engage with all your frontline employees.
Yeah.
Take us through some of the interesting ways you've seen people use the platform.
Before I go there, Ramesh, this is perhaps as you know, that this is my second organization where we've implemented Workplace. Earlier when I was with Jabong, we implemented Workplace because it came free for us. So second time I had to buy the product, so I truly had to be convinced about the value which it brings to the table. So got attracted because it was free and went along because it added value. So I think there are many ways of how it helps us. It truly converges with our strategy of mobile first to engage with our flying staff, with our, as I said, remotely located staff. In fact, 85% of our staff is non-desktop staff. So the people at the airport, the staff, the customer service executives, the security staff at the airports that you experience, they do not have desktops, they do not have laptops. So how do we bring the culture cascade messages through them? How do we communicate with them? And as I said, how do we, solve their problems? So that's how we've been able to use Workplace very, very efficiently.
Got it. Now, I also know you've done a few interesting things with Sears, our partner. Like you've built an ethics bot. Tell us a little bit about what the ethics bot does.
Okay, so now again, before I get into the longer answer of that question, since you mentioned Sears, and that partnership is a little bit close to my heart, especially because when we launched the application, I think the launch was perhaps less than a month of a plan. So it was fairly, easy, agile, very smooth from a setup perspective, apart from getting the leadership buy-in and identifying your workplace evangelist box, getting the contracting and the so on, so through. I think the other was having CRs on board to help us with the whole launch plan. My compliments to them to have partnered with us, in a very, very cohesive manner. Yes, talking about more use cases as far as workplace is concerned, ethics group is one of the interesting examples. We have a chief ethics officer, Mr. Gurjot Malli, who is at an SVP level and reports to the CEO. And he's the great evangelist of the ethics group. And as part of Tata culture, we celebrate our Ethics Day on 3rd March every year. And it's celebrated across all Tata group of companies. So I think when you say Tata stands for trust, these are small ways of how we make that legacy, make that vision of Jamshedji Tata, and relive his, his birth anniversary and his vision and his values every year through this whole day-long celebration, which is like Diwali for us in the Tata group. And as part of that celebration, there are several events which are planned, and we also introduced an ethics bot, which CS helped us implement. And I don't know how many of you would have seen that reality show on Colors. So it's like that musical show in which people would sing and you can vote for them, etc. So it's that ethics bot in which people could, just pledge that I believe in the Tata Code of Conduct and pledge for the ethics, of the organization, and then your photo pops up. So there's a whole collage of that which comes to life. So it was very interesting use case. And really involved all our employees across locations and to live our Ethics Day. So I think that
awesome.
was, yeah.
Shifting gears, what's your favorite feature on Workplace, personally? What do you like the most?
Okay, that's a difficult question, Ramesh. I'm not sure if there is a specific feature because personally I use it, so it is something which I wake up with, so if I have to find a colleague, if I have to find someone's coordinates, if I have to get into the reporting relationship, I don't go into my database, but I just go to Workplace to find who's where and whom is he reporting to. Whether it's my day job as HR, so my teams use it big time from, posting new hire information to welcoming new hires to making it a one-stop shop for finding anything and everything to solve problems for new hires and new joinees. For example, all our L&D, all our experiences of learning, feedback, even if people want to apply for a specific course, etc., we take the nominations through the learning group, on that. Then it's also a one-stop shop for our policies and self-service links and all our forms. So it really is solving problems. You don't have to go to different places to find that. So I think that's how we use it from HR's perspective. Even at leadership level, I just spoke about how Gurjot, our Chief Ethics Officer, uses it and, recognize people for their, how various ethics celebrations get posted there. There is a CSR group, so people would post stuff on their, on their CSR initiatives. So this is how we make the culture of Vistara come to life, through these various groups. Most interesting for me actually is, how we have been able to, get our leadership, especially, our Chief Strategy and Commercial Officer, who's very active on social media otherwise as well, but how he evangelizes, the customer stories group on Workplace. So that's very interesting. It's not about just, doing like a one-way cascade of new policies and new processes and new SOPs and circulars. And it's not about just sharing do's and don'ts of, don't do this and do this way. But it's sharing customer stories. So there's a group of customer stories which all employees are part of, and anyone can post there. So there are some groups which are, only the leadership posts there. There are some groups like, the plane spotting group or the book readers club and so on. But this customer stories group is, I find personally very powerful, wherein, how Sanjeev uses it to reinforce the customer experiences from, when a security in charge has returned 1,000 rupees to a customer and overwhelming feedback from him, or when you have saved a pet from someone who wrote from Kolkata onto a Twitter, account, or there is a person with disability and is in need of money and how we are trying to help that person. So the list goes on, and including the Twitter tweets from, the likes of Sohail Seth and also Veer Sanghvi in terms of appreciating how we train our people and how impossible it is to satisfy a customer who does not want to eat in-flight food, and how, a cabin crew helps by warming his food which he's brought from home and making it a memorable experience from him. I think the point that I'm trying to make is that it's not about the tool, but it's more about a culture transformation. And it's more about, Vistara way of life and how to find different opportunities about reinforcing, the positive messages there. So which is where I think I find it that we have been able to move the needle and make those first moves. And that's what we hear overwhelmingly from our customers as well.
I love these stories. They're amazing. And I saw one of your interviews on YouTube where you shared something very interesting. That is, you're a big advocate of building a social community. And you shared a great story with me a while back. I'd love for you to share that again.
Okay. I know what Ramesh is talking about. So that's typically those difficult questions which all HR heads always, get asked and are put in a spot. And when that long list of benefits and salary upgrades and incentives and increments and what's in store, etc., those kind of things, you get asked in an open forum. So it was last year our employee town hall, and one of the employees, we don't have a work from home policy as yet. So one of the lady employees, put me in a spot. Say, being a woman, you will be able to identify the challenges and, that women employees face, and why don't we have one? So though I did share with her that we are right now young and we are small and we are in a startup phase. So I think, and most of our jobs require a lot of face-to-face interaction with customers. So, which is not to say, but it's just an it's a process, it's a journey, and many policies have come through, and perhaps we'll look at it when we are ready for it. But at the same time, I did add for her, I think it's not about just work from home, but it's about creating a workplace which feels like home. So I think that's the intent of...
And what I often find is sometimes we might not have the answers to questions like these, but employees really find value if we're having the open and honest conversation. So the very fact that you acknowledge that we don't have a policy as yet, but you were open to having that dialogue and listen to the feedback, itself, I think, went a long way in building the right culture internally.
Yeah. I agree, and and some of these answers will be tricky ones. And as I said, there is no wrong question, but the answer, if is honest and is a balanced one, because all this empowerment comes with a lot of responsibility. So when you open these groups for a lot of public dialogue and open conversations, they also come with a lot of responsibility. So we do have a social media policy. We do have workplace guidelines, of how to address and how to, draw some framework and some rules of the game which we all can collectively follow.
And a few unrelated questions, but what is Deepa's de-stress mechanism? How do you de-stress?
Okay, I have one of my ex-colleagues sitting there. I don't know what she wants to say. Huh? I can't hear her, but anyways.
She said yoga.
Yoga, oh yeah. Okay, so so I think one is I do Kathak with my young daughter, so that helps me, get into a different space. Second is I do some kickboxing, and that helps me release my aggression. And third, as my dear ex-colleague just mentioned, is meditation and yoga, which helps you get connected to someone up there to help you with strength and direction. So I think...
That's amazing. And tell us a fun fact about you that people don't know.
Okay, so I don't know, all those who know me, I don't know what fun elements they know. I think I'm going to be disappointing you there, Ramesh. Not too much, not too much that people don't know about me, because my personal philosophy in life is that there are no secrets. It's only about, you judge what to share, how much to share, with whom to share, when to share appropriately. So yeah.
Got it. You mentioned, I'm going to correct you on something that you said earlier. You mentioned 2 companies you worked for use Workplace. It's actually 3 because you worked at Airtel earlier, and Airtel is also now on Workplace. So clearly there's a bit of a lucky charm. You're a lucky charm for us. Wherever you go and work, they end up rolling out Workplace by Facebook. So I hope that continues for us. We've got a minute left. Any final comments on building culture that you'd like to share with the audience here?
No, I think I said it earlier. For me as an HR head here, apart from defining policies, laying down processes, solving problems, and doing your day job, there was a bigger ask from our promoters and our board members. To think hard about the kind of organization that we want to build and the choices that we want to make and what is the Vistara way of life. So while in the startup mode and you are firefighting and you're solving for the basics, you're also constantly being pushed to sit back and think and really, think hard and build consensus on, much more deeper questions of, how this organization is going to become the world-renowned airline a few years from now. So my role has moved from just being, a custodian of policies and processes to being that culture evangelist. Yes, so far that's how my journey has been here.
Amazing. Look, Deepa, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story. Can we have a big round of applause for Deepa, please? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.